Governments across the world consider the reduction of child labor one of the success stories of the past 2 decades. Globally, the number of working children has gone down by a third since the year 2000. But eliminating the issue has been a far bigger challenge in Latin America. Correspondent Stephen Gibbs explains.
It's Tuesday morning and Dr. José Gomes is taking us to see something that the government of Brazil wants to stop.
Nós estamos nos dirigindo até uma feira livre.
We're going to a street market because we're possibly going to find evidence of child labor. People from the community who use children or adolescents under 16 as trolley workers or food sellers.
This seaside city and state is notorious for child labor. As in many parts of Brazil, average wages here are exceptionally low. It's easy to find people to work for very little, and children work for nearly nothing. At the market, José goes ahead to see if he can find any underage laborers. Within minutes, he does.
How old are you? 15? How long have you been working here? 2 or 3 years?
The problem José has is that here, as elsewhere in Brazil, working young is seen as culturally acceptable, even character building. This group of men told us they'd all started work aged 9. When José finds someone he suspects of working illegally, he takes a note of their details. The idea is that their parents are informed. But the aunt of this young girl saw no problem with the fact that her niece was working.
If she's not working, she would just be in the streets.
José says that despite all these hurdles, his project to get children off the streets and into school is making progress.
We have seen some children working, but I feel our efforts are paying off because there is only a small number. We are reducing child labor. Through our efforts, we have managed not to eliminate or eradicate the problem, but to reduce it significantly.
It's true, Brazil has made substantial strides in reducing child labor. In 1992, 20% of Brazilian children were believed to be working. By 2011, that number had fallen to just over 8%. But that is equivalent to 3.6 million children. The fact that child labor is still prevalent here does highlight one of the contradictions of Brazil. This is a country with a strong economy, but a society which is still struggling to give up some of its habits of centuries past. Dr. CLAUDIO SORIANO, an expert in child labor, says that the fact that old habits die hard is preventing millions of Brazilians from fulfilling their potential.
It
is important to understand that we have a world-class economy, one of the world's greatest economies, but unfortunately we are, particularly from the perspective of our children, a third world country.
To see one effect that child labor is having on this country, we went to this school on the outskirts of Maceió. 1,200 children are registered to study here. But every day, around 400, a third, fail to show up. The headmistress says the reason for that is simple. They're working.
We have noticed this for many years. Children stop coming to school so they can work with their parents in the street, selling water, ice cream, kebabs. Here in the state of Alagoas, it's considered normal.
Então, aqui no estado de Alagoas é normal. Isso já é normal.
So few children attend every day that part of the school, which once had classrooms, now lies abandoned. The headmistress says a solution to this needs to be found for the sake of her country. How do you change attitudes in this spectacular, unequal country? Brazil has lifted more than 40 million people out of poverty in the last decade, but sometimes it seems as if the progress has stalled. Near the lake that borders Maceió, there's a clear reminder that for millions of Brazilian children, homework still means this. The region is famous for its shellfish. Processing it is a family business, usually involving the entire family. To help reduce both child labor and truancy, The Brazilian government has set up a scheme whereby families are given cash if their children attend school. But the problem is that school hours are so brief here that plenty of children, even if they do go to school, still work far longer than they study. So this charity within the community, helped by funding from the Catholic Church, is attempting to fill children's days with something other than work. The day we visited, a group of young girls were being read a world-famous story of child labor, Cinderella. The volunteers here say that all this really should be the government's responsibility, but that the government is not doing enough.
That's why we're here, helping them do their work. I know the government has tried, but backup is needed. We are contributing our little bit so society is able to eliminate child labor, which is a serious problem in this community. This space lets the children dream again and hope for a different future.
Back in the city, we meet a young woman who feels her future was almost stolen from her. Alessandra is 33 now and studying to be a nurse. At the age of 10, she and her sister were destitute, so she was given to another family to work unpaid as a maid.
I had to start working when I was very young in a family home as a maid, even though I didn't know how to do anything, because the financial situation for me and my sister was very delicate. So someone who lived near us asked my mother if she could leave me to help in her house. I hadn't studied or anything, and so I started helping this woman, who was called Nilda, at about that age, 10 years old. So I started working in Nilda's house, cleaning the house, doing the washing up, cleaning the bathroom. I didn't wash clothes because I didn't know how.
Her life story, she says, is one of a lost childhood.
I never had a chance to go to a park or play or anything like that. I never had a chance to play. The normal life of a child was something I didn't have. Here there is a market called CISA. I think all the states have it. Every weekend I went there to find things from the garbage there, vegetables, fruit, to give to my mother.
How many children are working as maids behind the walls of Brazil's middle-class homes? The truth is, no one knows. But when we visited this social club for the city's elderly residents, we came across several people who were happy to admit that they had kept child laborers in their houses. People like Fatima.
Our father had a country estate, and the children there wanted to study in the city. There was a father who wanted to send us his child, so we brought up a child, and she went to school. She was never a maid. She worked, but more like a helper because a child does not know how to cook or organize a house, but she was very helpful.
But even Fatima admits that there is a side to this which is close to slavery.
It exists. People who have staff in the house and treat them like slaves. Certainly it exists. They shout orders like, "Bring me cake." You can't behave like that. You have to be kind.
The problem is that some people here, including Fatima, feel that what others call child labor can also be seen as a form of social service.
I am very pleased and grateful for the opportunity that I had to help them.
But the woman who experienced it all from the other side sees things very differently.
Do you think it's right to have a child who has no experience, who knows nothing living in your house? So she is a slave for you? You are stealing the childhood of the child. The time she's in your house doing things for you, you are stealing from her family, from her life.
The issue of child labor is just one of the many challenges Brazil faces as it launches itself on the world stage. Another reminder that this developing country is still struggling to rid itself of its past.